Okay, students, tonight I'm going to show you how to complete the IPCC emission scenarios lab, which is for Module 4. This is a really cool lab because you'll get to see the changes that occur when we ramp up CO2 from emissions scenario projection B1, low emissions. Medium emissions is A1B, and high emissions is A2. And you'll get to see the difference as we run through the projections for the 21st century. Okay, to start with, there are three ways of doing these exercises. I'll show you the one that I recommend. It's the easiest and the most precise. But I would recommend you start off by running these animations, and you can play the tour up here. I've loaded the IPCC climate projections file, and it'll give me the tours at the top. So I go click here to play the tour. Let's look at temperature under the high emission scenario. Click right there, and it's going to run through the whole of the 21st century here. And you can see all of a sudden towards the end of the century it gets really warm, especially in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so it's running through it several times in this little animation, which is quite fun to watch. This is not how you'll do the lab, though. All right, so the second one, I'll just try another one, play a tour. Let's look at high emissions precipitation right here. And we'll see what happens as we run through the century. You'll notice that the tropics are getting wetter, and the Australia and Africa, Southern Africa, are getting drier. Okay. So one thing you'll notice on all of these views is the continents are a little bit vague because you have these bold colors over them. And so to see the continents, you're going to want to just turn off this these projections here, and then all of a sudden the continents appear. The other thing that I want to make sure you know about is that we have our new temperature legend on the left side. We redid this legend to match the colors in the temperature projections more precisely, so we can turn that on and off. You're going to want to turn that off when you're looking at precipitation, by the way, because the precipitation scale is going to be right over here. All right, so there are two other ways of looking at the projections. The first one are these animations. And if you click on one of these, you will then just get to use your slider up here. So this will allow you to run through the century this way, okay? And you can do it this way like that. And so that's basically showing you the same way as the animation before. It's one way of going back and forth. That's not, again, the way that I recommend you do this lab. The way I recommend you answer the questions is not via these animations, but down here on the bottom with these projections by decade, because that's basically how these questions were written. So let's go look at Australia, which is in our practice questions. I'm going to focus on Australia. And again, here's my continent of Australia. Let's even them out a little bit. Oops, it's not that one, it's this one. Other way. Okay, let's get Australia in the middle. Here's my temperature legend that I'm going to read off. Okay, so I'm going to look at my high emission scenario here. I'm going to click there, and I have on the left side, you'll see average temperature by decade, average precipitation by decade. Let's start with temperature, clicking down here. So now I'm going to look at the average temperature in the high emissions, which is A2, scenario A2, and I'm going to click on the 2000s, and you can see not much changes. And look at this, it's kind of a, you'll see that the Australia is all one color. The only change is going to be the desert underneath, which shows it a little different, but it's all this yellow, which is between 0 and 1 degree temperature change over here. Okay, but now let's, instead of looking at the 2000s, let's fast forward to the 2090s. And then you can see Australia really changes and it gets a lot warmer. And the way that I'll tell this difference is I'm going to match these colors over here with the scale over here. So this is clearly 4 to 5 degrees temperature increase, and then going up one, this is 5 to 6 is this color here, and then going down one, this would be 3 to 4. So you have to kind of like go up one, down one, up one. So this is match this color and then go up one to this one and then go down one to this one. So you can see this clearly matches 3 to 4, this matches 4 to 5, and this matches 5 to 6. All right? So that's how you'll do that. Now let's look at precipitation. Okay, and precipitation is, so let's take off the average temperatures. Now look at the average precipitation. We're going to want to take off our temperature legend so we can see our precip values. And so let's look at the average precipitation for the high emission scenarios for the 2000s. Okay, you're going to look at this color here. Okay, this color is this light yellow, and it's between 0 and 0.25 millimeters per day. All right, and then you're going to have to ultimately multiply that to get millimeters per year. You multiply that by 365, obviously. This bluish color will be up from that, so that would be 0.25 to 0.5, okay? All right, so now let's look at the 2090s instead, and you can see that this very lower southwest corner of Australia is getting drier, and it's this color here. So this is 0 to 0.25 in temperature decrease. So that is a decrease from 0 to 0.25 millimeters per day. All right, so you're going to be looking at differences between the 2000s and the 2090s. You're going to be looking at differences between the different scenarios. So we'll look at differences between our high emission scenario, our average emission scenario, which is our A1B, and then our low emission scenario. And each one of these has average temperatures and average precipitations for these different decades. So you're going to want to make sure you click on the right one. And again, remember that when you look at the precipitation, you're going to want to make sure that your temperature legend is off. All right, so that's basically how you do this lab. Just be careful to make sure you have the colors right. And that, again, is going to be matching these colors on the left side. And again, I recommend you do the practice as many times as you can to make sure you get the answers right, as many times as you need to make sure you get the answers right. Do this early enough that you can email or Yammer Robert and me to make sure you're ready to go with the real lab, and then go with the real lab and you'll be good to go. All right, so those are the instructions. Please let us know if you have any questions, and good luck.